Let me make my meaning abundantly and completely clear if I can. The United States deplores any war, cold or otherwise. Its only desire is to live in peace and freedom and to let all other peoples live in peace and freedom.
It's actually been an open secret for decades, but for the first time now, the CIA has released documents that show its role in the 1953 coup. That is the coup that toppled Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister. Mohammad Mossadegh had moved to nationalize oil production in Iran.
Guatemala, 1954. Flushed with success, America's secret government decided another troublesome leader must go. This time it was Jacobo Arbenz, the democratically elected president of Guatemala. From Honduras, the same country that today is the Contra staging base, the CIA launched a small band of mercenaries against Guatemala. They were easily turned back, so with its own planes and pilots, the CIA then bombed the capital. Arbenz fled and was immediately replaced by an American puppet.
Nominal independence, featuring corrupt governments, became the model of choice.
How and why was Patrice Lumumba murdered 40 years ago?
Qui oubliera enfin les fusillades où périrent tant de nos frères, ceux qui ne voulaient plus se soumettre au régime d'injustice, d'oppression et d'exploitation.
This is where CIA agent Larry Devlin lives. He was the man the American government entrusted with the murder of Lumumba.
Lumumba was a danger for both the Congo and the rest of the world, in the sense that he was allowing the Soviets to come in.
In a heavy wave of rioting in the streets of Ciudad Trujillo and in other sections of the Dominican Republic,
station master for the Central Intelligence Agency, and he retired, but was still doing freelance work, if you may. And the United States government, he told me this himself, had him and another man go down to the Dominican Republic, put a tree across the road, and when the president came by, they just machine gunned him on orders from the U.S. government.
Looked like in South Vietnam's capital city of Saigon on Saturday morning. The revolutionary forces had clearly moved according to a well-constructed plan, and they carried it out with skill, sealing off sections of the noisy, smoking city and neutralizing the government forces neighborhood by neighborhood.
What they were trying to build was a just, equitable democracy that took control of Chile's economy from the United States and its proxies. In Santiago, General Pinochet, America's man, sent in his British-made bombers against the presidential palace. It was September the 11th, 1973.
We are trying to make the world a better place.
The new leader of Libya's opposition military left for Libya 2 weeks ago, unquote. Apparently, around the same time, the president signed the covert operations order. The new leader spent the past 2 decades of his life in Libya? No. In suburban Virginia, where he had no visible means of support.
The latest come from Yemen. Eyewitnesses are telling CNN that there are large protests taking place outside the U.S. Embassy in the capital city of Sana'a.
The CIA wants the authority to launch signature strikes. Now, a signature strike means that they don't have to know the identities of those who could be killed.
The issue here that I'm concerned with, and that is the fact that the U.S. and the CIA are working to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad, while Russia, a longtime ally of Assad for decades now, is working to defend or uphold this Syrian government of Assad. And this puts us in a position of a possible direct head-to-head conflict with Russia as long as the US and CIA continue down this path.
Because he was caught off balance by the protests in the Maidan and Yanukovych then fleeing after we had brokered a deal to transition power in Ukraine. We had brokered a deal to transition power in Ukraine.
The cities which Kiev is now striving to force into submission are sitting on large, untapped reserves of natural gas.
Это официальный сайт украинской компании «Бурисма», самого крупного производителя природного газа на Украине. Все ее директора – иностранцы. Да какие! Вот, знакомьтесь, управляющий фирмы Хантер Байден, родной сын действующего вице-президента Соединенных Штатов Америки Джо Байдена.
The economic interest in this case is what's driving the coup regime in Kiev to launch military action against its own citizens.
Депутати, які приїхали, що вони общалися з людьми, які були на блокпостах, які просять, випрошують, виривають команду порвати сепаратистів, дайте їм таку можливість. Дайте їм таку можливість. Нехай воюють, нехай заключають договір. Мене ніхто не питався, чи я сьогодні готовий вбити людину.
There are actually people who have gone from the U.S. and helped Nazi battalions in Ukraine and returned to the U.S. without prosecution.
English-speaking foreigners in Ukraine's army uniform in the port city of Mariupol.
Stop, скажите, что это?
My face, please. And this man was caught on camera as a journalist trying to question him on the situation in the city shortly after it was shelled.
Documents from George Soros's Open Society Foundations show persistent efforts by the organization to influence the political process in Europe.
You have influence on the part of the principal policymaker, not only towards Russia, but towards Eastern Europe.
Yes. The country where I'm most engaged and we are really working together is Ukraine.
Yes.
If you go back over history from the end of World War II to the present, you will see a consistent pattern followed by the United States government to bring about regime change in countries, and that is to send in well-funded non-governmental organizations, activist groups, agitators, agent provocateurs, and create massive civil unrest to destabilize and bring down a democratic government.
Protests across the nation continued throughout the entire weekend.
We're in a very, very critical point in the history of this country.
Don't burn it down we need in our community. Take that to the suburbs.
Tuesday, President Obama will be trying to calm racial tensions that his own behavior has done much to aggravate.
The organizers used the phrase Black Lives Matter was not because they said they were suggesting nobody else's lives matter. Rather, what they were suggesting was there is a specific problem that is happening in the African American community that's not happening in other communities.
Once you strip away the myths, the lie, the propaganda, all that remains are the facts. Lies put out and repeated over and over again by the President of the United States are not a substitute for empirical research. 0.04% of perpetrators of black homicide are police officers, less than 0.1%, and on the other hand, 93% of perpetrators of black homicide are committed by other black people.
Well, it looks like it's payday for the Black Lives Matter movement. They're cashing in $100 million from liberal groups for its talk of being a street uprising. Black Lives Matter is increasingly awash in cash.
And there is no rule that says they can't use those tactics they've used in so many other countries on the United States to bring down the democratic government, the remnants of the constitutional republic, and complete the transition of the United States into a true dictatorship.
You think there's gonna be a race war? I might. That's what it's looking like, honestly.